Our final writing strategy in teaching beginning writing is called Writing Workshop. Writing Workshop is based on the premise that writing instruction should be similar to the processes used by skilled writers. During the 1970s and 1980s, a considerable amount of research was done on the writing process. This research revealed that skilled adult writers use the following steps. First, they engage in pre-writing. There's a lot of thinking in this stage, reading to learn about what they want to write, creating ideas, and coming up with some type of preliminary organization for their writing. Next, they move into drafting or composing, getting ideas down on paper. This tends to be a very rough draft. Then they revise. The content may change. The organization may change. Parts may be added and other parts may be deleted. Words may be substituted and consideration of the audience comes into play. When the content is just right, writers go into the piece to do editing. Their papers are proofed carefully and mechanical errors are corrected. Finally, their writing is ready to be published and shared with an audience. Research has also shown that skilled writers tend to spend a lot of time on pre-writing. They do lots of thinking, outlining, and reading before they start writing. Think about it as being as vital as a warm-up is for an athlete. Once they've done a rough draft, they revise content first and save editing mechanics until later. Skilled writers also tend to use a recursive process going back and forth between pre-writing, drafting, and revising until they get their piece just right. Less skilled writers tend to do the opposite. They spend very little time on pre-writing. They just pick up the paper and start drafting. Then they have a tendency to edit and make everything perfect before getting to the revising stage. What happens is that this wastes a lot of time. There are 4 components to a writing workshop. The workshop begins with a quick mini lesson in which the teacher teaches a writing skill to the whole class. Next, there's a status of the class in which the teacher checks on each child's progress with their ongoing writing project. Next, there's a lengthy period of time for writing. Here, children write individually or in pairs, and small groups of children get together to revise and edit their writing. In addition, the teacher pulls aside individual children to have one-on-one writing conferences. The last 5 or 10 minutes of the workshop is devoted to a work share. Here, children get to read their writing to the whole class. Now, we'll take a look at each of these components with a little more detail. The workshop begins with a mini lesson. This is a 5 to 10 minute whole group lesson that teaches a writing skill. Now, this might be an aspect of the writing process, such as pre-writing. It could be a procedural aspect of the writing workshop, such as how to do peer editing groups. Or it could be a quality of good writing skill, such as organization or voice. It could be a mechanical skill, such as spelling or punctuation. Next, the teacher does a status of the class. This is a 5-minute quick check of what the writer plans to do each day. Here's an example of a checklist that one teacher uses for her status of the class. The teacher marks which phase of the writing process each child is at each day of the week. This is important because children spend a lot of the writing workshop time working on their own, and it's important that the teacher keeps track and makes sure that the children are making progress. Here are 2 other systems for doing status of the class. At the top, this teacher has made a wheel that contains the different stages of the writing workshop. Then the teacher puts clothespins with the child's name written on them to indicate what each child is doing on that particular day. At the bottom, we have a similar kind of organization where a pocket chart with the names of each phase of the writing workshop are indicated on the pockets, and the children's name tags are placed in the pocket to indicate what they're doing on that particular day. Next, we get to the writing phase of the workshop. This is the main period. It lasts usually 30 to 40 minutes. During this writing period, the children engage in individual or group writing activities, and they also conference with peers or with the teacher. Some of the children are going to be engaged in pre-writing activities. They'll be getting ideas of what to write about. This can be done through small group discussion, reading, brainstorming, making webs, outlines, all different ways. During the writing period, some children will be engaged in drafting or composing. Here, they are working individually to get their ideas down on paper. Other children may be at the revising stage. They'll be modifying the content of drafts that they've written earlier by adding, deleting, or reorganizing information that they've put in their writing. They can do this in 3 ways. They can do it on their own, in groups, during what we call peer editing conferences, or they might be doing their advising in one-on-one conferences with their teacher. Other children will be further along and will be at the editing stage in the writing process. Here, they have already finalized the content of what they're writing. So now they're correcting the mechanical errors, doing a careful proof of spelling, punctuation, and grammar. Now again, this can be done individually, in peer groups, or one-on-one with a teacher in a conference. The spaceman in the right-hand corner of your screen can help children remember to put a space between each word during the editing stage. Even kindergarteners should be expected to spell sight words correctly, and peer editing is very powerful. Here is an example of a self-help tool that children can use to edit their own writing. It is a list of skills that the children should focus upon when proofing their own work. This particular child is going to focus on capitalizing the word I, capitalizing Christmas, and using apostrophes to show possession, capitalizing people's names, using exclamation points, and putting periods at the end of each sentence. The child and the teacher arrived at these skills at a one-on-one conference. Of course, each child might have a separate set of skills to focus upon. Finally, some children will be at the final stage of the writing process. Here, they are engaged in publishing their work. They are preparing to share their work with peers or parents or other audiences. Several ways of publishing writing include displaying the writing on the wall or on a bulletin board, making books that can be sent home or stored in the classroom library. Finally, children can use the group share time in the workshop to read their writing to the whole class. The writing workshop concludes with a 5 to 10 minute group share. Here, several children get an opportunity to read their writing to other people in their class or other classrooms, and also to receive constructive feedback from their peers.